how I found another girl's shoes in my man's car. Okay, so this was a couple of years ago. Let me set the tone for you. We were out running errands and we went to IKEA for my first time ever. So of course I left with something and we came in his car. He opens the trunk. Normally I would just get in the car because he's gonna lift all the heavy stuff in the car, but it was so much stuff that I felt bad. So I just kind of stood there for emotional support. Like maybe I'll take the cart back when he's done. So he pops the trunk, he moves some stuff around, and then I see them. A pair of blue Dior sandals. Immediately, my heart goes to my butt and I look at them and I look at him and I don't say anything. And he kind of tosses them to the side. There's no way that he didn't see that I saw them. I'm someone who has to like process things before I react. So I'm just quiet, I act like nothing happened. And as soon as we get in the car, he says, "What's wrong?" Red flags are going off because why would you think something's wrong if nothing happened? And I said nothing. So I'm in it for the long haul. I say, nothing's wrong. And we had dinner reservations, so we were just heading towards that place. So I ask, very calmly, might I add, whose sandals are those? He says, what? So I say, what? The sandals in your trunk that you threw. To which he gets defensive and says, I don't know. Now in my head, I'm like, that's the worst thing you can do. Why do you have an attitude with me? I don't even want to go to dinner anymore. This car had been his car out of state and his friend had it for a little period of time. His friend has girlfriend, kids. So he proceeds to tell me he thinks his friend's girlfriend's shoes in his trunk from over a year ago. At this point, I'm getting offended because now you're insulting my intelligence. He goes, I'm gonna call her. I said, okay, call her. There better not be no code words, no innuendos. You better not pan the camera to me. I don't want to see you even wink. Do not let her know that I'm here. Because I don't know this girl. She doesn't have any loyalty to me, okay? So he doesn't have her number. So he calls her on Instagram. She doesn't answer, but she calls back very shortly after. He says, hey, did you leave some shoes in this car? And she says, shoes? No. To which he breaks my rule and pans the camera and says, show her the shoe. I'm fuming in my head, okay? The shoes were on the floor. He pans to it and look over at the screen and the girl's like, she knew he was done for. And then he starts like raising his voice at me. He says, you know what? If you're gonna have an attitude, we don't even have to go to dinner. Inside, I want to scream. Outside, very composed. I'm like, wonderful. Would you please drop me off? He then gets more upset that I took him up on his offer. So then he does the next absolute worst thing that you can do. He insists that the girl that he just spoke to on the phone must just have terrible memory and forgot that these are her shoes. So he says, let me call my friend, which I'm like, I don't even care at this point. Like, I really don't want to hear him because one thing, a man's homeboy is never your friend. No, he gonna lie. He could be like, wasn't the sky blue last night, bro? And he'd be like, dead ass. It was on my mom, it was blue. I'm like, I really don't care. Like, you really think I'm stupid. He calls homeboy and says, hey, are these your girl's sandals? I got my girl with me. Okay. You might as well have said, can you just lie to her, please? And he goes, let me see them. His friend is like, yeah, those are hers. My bad. She must have just forgot them. But I'm a quick thinker. Again, very calm. I ask, so what size are they? You know what? And I respect homeboy's dedication. He tried to guess. He said 39. Wrong. And to my man, I said, why don't you check the size on those? Tell me what that says. It doesn't say 39. At this point in my head, I'm like, case closed. Drop me off. I've seen what I needed to see. And I'm keeping it together. I'm not upset. I'm not yelling because I don't want you to think that you really got one on me. And so I'm like, oh. But then I'm like, you know what? I did need to go on a little diet. So this, jumpstart. And if you think that's the end of it, you're wrong. Go to part 2. Story time on how I found another girl's shoes in my man's car. Part 2. So at this point, I'm like, there's nothing else to say. Like, so I don't say anything. To which he thinks it's a good idea to then gaslight me and say, you know what? These are your sandals and you're just trying to play games. I am trying so hard to keep my composure. I'm like, okay, now you didn't piss me off. I'm like, just pull over. At this point, I will Uber. You could keep my IKEA stuff. Like, I have to leave. And I'm so triggered because, like, are you really gaslighting me? He follows up with, actually, I even have a picture of you wearing these. You do not have a picture of me wearing these, right? And so I say, okay, show me the picture. We're parked. He's looking through his phone for nothing. And I say, well, remember when you bought me those Chanel sandals? He said, yeah. I said, what size did you buy those in? He said, a 38. And I said, what size are these sandals, beloved? A 37. He still is persistent that these are mine. So he's like, if they're not yours, then you won't get upset if I throw them away right now. I said, no, I won't get upset, but your girlfriend will. At this point, he starts to realize he's losing me. And he says, look, I really don't know whose they are. Maybe my sisters, maybe like, I don't know, maybe one of your friends. Like, I do not know. And then it hits me. I think I do have a friend with these shoes. And we did recently go out together and he did pick us up in this car. But how would they get in the trunk? Now I'm thinking, but I don't say anything out loud. So I text my friend. I don't tell her the situation. I just send her a picture of the sandals. To which she responds, damn, I've been looking for those. LOL. I thought I lost them at the club that night. And I ask again, are you sure? She says, I spilled bleach on there. So if there's a stain, then they're mine. The stain was there. Obviously, I didn't tell him because you're still not off the hook for the way you just treated me, raised your voice, and gaslit me. I wasn't even being accusatory. Now, if you would have started off with, I genuinely don't know. Let's figure this out together because I want you to feel comfortable and I never want you to doubt my integrity. Would have been much different than trying to convince me that I had worn these sandals that I've never worn. When I told him that they were in fact my friends, he changed his story to, I told you I saw them at your house before. No, sir, you told me you saw these on my feet. And if you ever disrespect me, raise your voice above what is appropriate in a public library, or attempt to make me question my reality again, that's it. You will never hear from me again. Then in a twist of events, I ended up not being friends with that friend anymore and told her she can come get her stuff. She never got her stuff. So they ended up getting donated to a halfway house. So now somebody recovering has some nice Dior sandals to wear to their interviews. Okay, that's it.